"She is nothing," said the stepmother, her voice like dry harmattan. Kiamaka was an orphan, spoken of as a burden, named as misfortune. In her heart, a quiet thought trembled. Is this where my story ends? The elders say destiny never sleeps, even when hope grows thin. The woman who cast her out believed hunger would erase her name, that dust would claim her future. Yet the road of sorrow often hides footprints. Will cruelty have the final word, or will resilience speak louder than fate's insults? Listen to this tale of rejection and hidden favor, of tears that water greatness, and of a child whose tomorrow waited beyond disgrace. The elders say that when the moon refuses to shine on a child, the stars must learn to bend. In the old quarters of Abeokuta, where red earth clung to bare feet and secrets traveled faster than drums, this truth began to unfold around a girl named Adisua. She was born on a night thick with rain, the kind that rattled zinc roofs and made women whisper prayers into the dark. Her mother did not survive the birth. By morning, the rain had washed the compound clean, but grief remained like smoke that refused to clear. Adisua grew under the care of her father, Baba Khalad, a quiet man whose words were few, but whose love was deep. He sold firewood by the roadside and returned each evening with dust on his wrapper and stories in his mouth. He told her tales of tortoise and wisdom, of greed punished and patience rewarded. "A niti y barara a riaya," he would say. "The one who walks gently finds goodness." Adisua listened, her eyes wide, storing each word like corn in a barn. When she was 10, Baba Khalad took a new wife. Mama Sad arrived with heavy footsteps and heavier silence. At first, she smiled in public and praised Adisua before neighbors, but inside the compound her voice sharpened like a blade. Food reduced. Laughter disappeared. Tasks multiplied. "You eat too much for a child that is not mine," Mama Sad often said, her words sinking deeper than blows. Adisua swallowed her tears and remembered her father's stories. She believed patience still carried reward. Then Baba Khalad fell ill. The healer came and shook his head. Neighbors murmured. Before the next full moon, her father joined the ancestors. The compound that once echoed with stories grew cold. Mama Sad's kindness vanished like dew at sunrise. Adisua's schoolbooks disappeared. Her mat was moved closer to the kitchen door. "From today, you earn your stay," Mama Sad declared, eyes hard as stone. Days turned into long chains of hunger and labor. Adisua fetched water before dawn, cooked meals she rarely tasted, and watched other children pass in uniforms while she stood barefoot, dust clinging to her legs. At night, she spoke to her father in her thoughts. "Baba, you said the gentle one finds goodness. Where is mine?" The night offered no answer, only the sound of insects and her own breathing. One evening, after a day without food, Mama Sad pointed toward the gate. "Go and sleep anywhere you like," she said. "This house is not for useless children." The words landed like a final drumbeat. Adisua stepped outside with nothing but the wrapper on her body and the stories in her head. The road stretched before her, wide and indifferent. She wandered until darkness thickened, until fear and exhaustion braided together. Beneath an old mango tree near the market square, she sat and pressed her forehead to her knees. "If the ancestors still see me, let them remember my name," she thought. Hunger twisted her belly, but shame held her still. A voice broke the silence. "Child, night is not a friend to the young." It was Mama Kuderet, an elderly woman known for her herbs and sharp tongue. Her eyes softened as she looked at Adisua. "Come, even a lizard deserves warmth." She gave her leftover porridge and a corner of her mat. Adisua ate slowly, each swallow a prayer. Days passed. Adisua helped Mama Kuderet grind herbs and sweep the stall. In return, she received food and small coins. The old woman spoke often, her words heavy with meaning. "Life bends before it straightens," she said. "Do not curse the bend." Adisua listened. Hope, thin but alive, settled in her chest. One afternoon, a well-dressed woman stopped at the stall, her perfume cutting through the smell of roots and leaves. She watched Adisua work in silence. "You have steady hands," she finally said. "What is your name?" When Adisua answered, the woman nodded. "I am Madame Abeni. I run a catering house in the city. Come tomorrow." That night, Adisua could not sleep. Fear and excitement wrestled within her. Is this another door that will close? She wondered. But at dawn, she followed the road toward the city, carrying nothing but courage and the memory of her father's voice. Madame Abeni's kitchen was loud with voices and smells. Adisua learned quickly, guided by instinct and hunger. She cooked as if telling a story, each spice placed with care. Customers began to ask for the girl who cooked with calm eyes. Madame Abeni watched, impressed but cautious. "Skill opens doors," she said, "but character keeps them open." Months passed. Adisua grew stronger. Her laughter returned in small pieces. One evening, a man in fine agbada tasted her food and paused. "Who cooked this?" he asked. When Adisua stepped forward, their eyes met. Something unspoken passed between them, like recognition. The elders say destiny announces itself softly. That night, as Adisua washed her hands and looked at the sky, she felt it. The bend was ending. The path, though still long, was beginning to straighten. The elders say that when destiny knocks twice, only the foolish pretend not to hear. Adisua did not know this proverb then, but its meaning followed her like a shadow on a bright day. The man who had tasted her food was called Oladipo Adikunal, a name spoken with respect in markets and offices alike. He owned transport businesses, warehouses, and half the trucks that thundered along the expressway. Yet what stayed with him was not the spice of the stew alone, but the calm in the girl's eyes, the kind that came only from someone who had suffered without losing herself. For days after that evening, his thoughts returned to the small catering house, and the quiet girl who cooked as if her hands were guided by memory older than herself. He asked questions without revealing his interest. Who trained her? He asked Madame Abeni casually. The woman shrugged. Hunger, she replied. And a good heart. Oladipo nodded. He understood hunger. He had known it as a boy before fortune found him. Adisua, meanwhile, continued her work, unaware of the invisible thread tightening around her fate. She woke before dawn, whispered thanks for another day, and tied her scarf with care. Mama Kudurat's words echoed in her mind. Character keeps doors open. She worked as if every task was a test she could not afford to fail. Sometimes, when exhaustion crept in, she spoke to her father in her thoughts. Baba, I am still gentle. I am still trying. One afternoon, Madame Abeni called her aside. A man is watching you, she said plainly. Not with bad eyes, but with serious ones. Be wise. Adisua's heart beat faster. She had learned that attention could be dangerous. I only want to work, she replied softly. Madame Abeni studied her face, then nodded. That may be exactly why he is watching. The invitation came a week later. Oladipo sent word that he wanted Adisua to cook for a private family gathering at his home. Fear and hope tangled in her chest. She remembered Mama Saad, remembered how quickly kindness could sour. But she also remembered the mango tree, the hunger, the road at night. This was not a door she could ignore. His house stood at the edge of the city, quiet and guarded. As Adisua entered the kitchen, she felt the weight of unfamiliar space. She closed her eyes briefly and breathed. I have cooked with firewood and empty stomach. I can cook here. The dishes she prepared carried memory and restraint. No excess, no pride, only balance. When the family ate, silence fell. Oladipo watched his guests' faces change, watched appreciation bloom without words. Afterward, he spoke to her alone. "Where did you learn this?" he asked. Adisua answered truthfully. "Life taught me, sir." He smiled faintly. Life is a hard teacher. Days turned into weeks. Adisua was invited again. Then again. Soon she was offered steady work in Oladipo's household kitchen. She hesitated. Madame Abeni placed her hands on her shoulders. "Go," she said. "Streams do not apologize for becoming rivers." With tears and gratitude, Adisua stepped into a new chapter. Life in Oladipo's house was different. There was order, but not cruelty. Expectations, but also respect. Still, Adisua kept her head low. She did not laugh loudly. She did not ask questions. She worked and observed. Oladipo noticed everything. Her discipline. Her silence. The way she listened more than she spoke. At night, he found himself thinking of her presence like one thinks of a steady drumbeat beneath a song. It was unsettling. He had known women drawn to his wealth, his name. Adisua seemed untouched by those things. She thanked him for wages as if they were gifts, not payment. It disturbed and intrigued him. One evening, as rain whispered against the windows, Oladipo spoke without planning to. "You do not ask for much," he said. Adisua paused, then replied carefully. "I have learned that asking does not always bring kindness." The honesty in her voice struck him deeper than flattery ever could. From that moment, something shifted. He began to see not just her skill, but her story. He did not press. The elders warn against rushing what the ancestors are still shaping. Instead, he watched. And Adisua, unaware of the storm and shelter gathering around her, continued to walk gently, just as her father had taught her, not knowing that destiny, once awakened, rarely sleeps again. The elders say that when a calabash is filled too quickly, it may crack from its own weight. Adisua stood unknowingly at such a point, where blessing and danger shared the same shadow. Her place in Oladipo Adekunle's household had become firm, yet firmness invited attention, and attention always tested the heart. Whispers began among the other workers, quiet at first, then bold. Some spoke with curiosity, others with envy. "Why does Oga notice the cook?" they asked. "Why does he ask after her work?" The words floated like smoke, unseen but choking. Adisua felt the change before she understood it. Conversations stopped when she entered a room. Eyes followed her steps. She remembered Mama Kudarat's warning. Even good fortune attracts flies. She kept to herself, answered politely, and focused on her duties. Still, unease settled in her chest. At night, she prayed silently. "Let me not lose myself now that I have found my feet." Oladipo too felt the tension. He had lived long enough to recognize the signs. His household manager approached him one morning. "People are talking," the man said carefully. Oladipo frowned. "About what?" The manager hesitated. "About the girl." Silence followed. Oladipo waved him away, but the words lingered. He knew how stories could grow legs and run ahead of truth. That evening, he called Adisua into the sitting room. She stood respectfully, hands clasped. "Are you comfortable here?" he asked. The question surprised her. "Yes, sir," she replied. "I am grateful." He studied her face, searching for ambition, manipulation, anything false. He found only caution. "People will talk," he said slowly. "You must decide how you wish to stand." Adisua swallowed. "I only wish to work with dignity," she said. "Nothing more." Her answers stayed with him long after she left. Oladipo had built his life on control and calculation. Yet this girl brought something he could not measure. It unsettled him. He remembered his own youth, the days when older men decided his fate without asking his heart. He did not want to become that kind of man. Meanwhile, trouble brewed beyond the walls of the house. Mama Said heard rumors in the market. A girl matching Adisua's description now lived and worked for a wealthy man. At first, she dismissed it. Then doubt crept in like ants into sugar. She asked questions. Each answer tightened her chest. Regret, sharp and unwelcome, knocked on her heart. Could that useless girl truly rise? The thought burned her. Adisua sensed the past stirring. One afternoon, she saw Mama Sad across the road, eyes hard, mouth tight. Fear surged through her. Old wounds throbbed. She remembered hunger, insults the night she was cast out. That evening, she could not cook with her usual calm. Oladipo noticed. "You are not steady today," he said gently. The gentleness broke her. Words spilled out. Careful but true. She spoke of her stepmother, of loss, of being sent away like refuse. Oladipo listened without interruption. When she finished, he nodded slowly. "The world often punishes kindness," he said, "but it also rewards endurance." He paused. "If your past comes here, it will not harm you." Adisua looked up, startled. For the first time, she felt defended, not pitied. Gratitude filled her eyes. Still, the moral weight pressed on her. She did not want protection born of favor. She wanted respect earned by merit. That night, she considered leaving, finding another path before stories twisted her image. Is safety worth suspicion? She asked herself. Sleep did not come easily. The following days tested her resolve. Mama Sad came openly now, demanding to see Oladipo, claiming Adisua owed her everything. Her words dripped with false tears. "I raised her," she cried. "She abandoned me." Oladipo listened once, then dismissed her claims calmly. "The girl owes you nothing," he said. "Leave my house." Mama Sad left, anger and shame wrestling on her face. Adisua heard of the encounter later. Her knees weakened. She expected reproach, perhaps dismissal. Instead, Oladipo called her again. "You cannot carry guilt that is not yours," he said firmly. "If you stay here, it is because you deserve to." The certainty in his voice steadied her. Something shifted between them then. Not romance, not yet, but trust. He began to ask her opinions on meals, on household matters. She answered carefully, growing more confident. Staff attitudes softened as Oladipo's respect became clear. The whispers faded. One night, during a quiet meal, Oladipo spoke thoughtfully. "Life places choices before us disguised as problems," he said. "You chose dignity over bitterness. That is rare." Adisua met his eyes, her voice steady. "My father said bitterness eats the vessel that carries it." Oladipo smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. "The elders say that character reveals itself when tested by comfort, not hardship." As Adisua settled into stability, her kindness did not thin, her humility did not crack. Destiny watched closely. The calabash did not break. Instead, it grew stronger, ready for what was yet to be poured. The old ones say, when destiny knocks softly, only the patient hear it. I speak now as one who has watched many seasons turn, as one whose beard has tasted the dust of time. The matter of Adisua did not unfold loudly at first. It moved like the moon, slow but commanding, shaping tides without announcement. Those who listened closely felt it. Those who mocked it would later bow their heads in silence. After Mama Sad's shameful departure, calm settled again in Oladipo Adekun's household, but calm is never empty. It is a pot simmering, waiting for what must be added. Adisua returned to her duties with renewed steadiness. Her greetings carried warmth. Her silences carried wisdom. The servants noticed. Respect, once withheld, now followed her steps like a loyal dog. They no longer measured her by where she came from, but by how she carried herself. Oladipo observed these changes with careful eyes. He had learned long ago that a household reflects the heart of its master. When harmony grew, he knew something right was taking root. Yet another voice stirred within him, quieter but persistent. This girl's path is not ordinary. He wrestled with the thought, for men of power fear what they cannot easily name. One evening, as rain spoke softly to the earth, Oladipo invited Adisua to sit at a distance and share a meal discussion. Such invitations were rare. She felt the weight of it. Do not forget who you are, she reminded herself. Oladipo spoke of his late wife, of loneliness masked by wealth. He did not seek pity. He sought understanding. Adisua listened, her heart respectful. Loneliness is heavy, she said gently, but it also teaches us to see others. Her words struck him deeply. He saw not a servant, but a woman shaped by suffering into clarity. From that night, his regard changed. Still, he remained cautious. The world judges quickly, especially when lines blur. He resolved to test time itself. If this is destiny, it will endure patience. Beyond the household, Adisua's story traveled quietly. In the market, women spoke of a girl once rejected now living with honor. Some shook their heads in disbelief. Others nodded knowingly. The ground does not swallow good seed, an old trader said. Such words reached ears far and wide, including those of Oladipo's extended family. Pressure came disguised as concern. A cousin visited, speaking carefully. People talk, he warned. A man of your standing must be careful. Oladipo listened, unmoved. My standing was not built by fear of tongues, he replied. The cousin left unconvinced. Rumors grew restless again, searching for cracks. Adisua sensed the renewed tension. She questioned her place once more. Must my presence always stir storms? She wondered. She considered leaving quietly, sparing Oladipo further scrutiny. That night she prayed with tears held back. If my staying brings harm, show me another road. Morning brought clarity through conversation. Oladipo spoke plainly. I will not ask you to leave, he said, nor will I force you to stay. Choose freely. The freedom stunned her. After years of being decided for, the choice felt unfamiliar. She bowed her head. I will stay, she said finally. Not for comfort, but because I believe this place is part of my healing. The elders say healing often prepares the soul for purpose. From that day, Adisua's role expanded. She trained younger workers, settled disputes gently, offered counsel when asked. Her voice carried calm authority. Oladipo watched admiration replace suspicion in the household. The people followed her example and order deepened. Then came the festival season, a time when families gathered and intentions surfaced. Oladipo's relatives arrived, observing everything. Eyes lingered on Adisua. Questions hovered unspoken. During a communal meal, an aunt spoke openly. This girl carries herself like one born well, she said. Where did she learn such grace? Adisua answered honestly. Suffering is a hard teacher, but it teaches thoroughly. Murmurs followed, thoughtful rather than cruel. That night, Oladipo made a decision within himself. He would no longer hide behind caution. Respect deserved recognition. Yet he understood that destiny demands preparation, not haste. He resolved to honor Adisua openly, not as favor, but as acknowledgement of worth. He announced her promotion to household steward, a role earned by competence. The declaration silenced doubters. Adisua accepted with humility, thanking the household collectively. Tears burned behind her eyes. The orphan now entrusted with others. She marveled. Mama said heard of this elevation. The news struck her like dry harmattan wind, stripping pride bare. Regret returned, heavier than before. But regret alone cannot rewrite deeds. The ancestors record actions, not wishes. As I, an old witness, tell you this, know that the road ahead still held tests. Favor invites trials. Yet the seed planted in hardship had grown strong roots. Adisua stood not because fate lifted her blindly, but because she learned to stand when no one held her. Remember this, children of tomorrow, destiny does not rush. It observes. It waits for character to catch up with blessing. When it does, even the rejected find their names spoken with honor. The elders say, a river that forgets its source will dry before the sun sets. This truth circled Adisua's thoughts as her days grew fuller, and her name carried more weight. Honor had entered her life quietly, but honor demands memory. She remembered the streets, the hunger, the voices that dismissed her worth. Each memory tied her feet to humility, even as others now rose when she entered a room. With her new role came new trials. Authority tests the spirit more sharply than poverty ever did. Some servants welcomed her guidance, relieved by fairness replacing fear. Others watched with narrowed eyes, measuring her words for weakness. Adisua felt the tension but did not name it aloud. The calabash floats best when it stays balanced, she reminded herself. Oladipo's trust in her became visible through responsibility rather than praise. He involved her in decisions, asked her counsel on household matters. She answered thoughtfully, never forgetting her place, yet never shrinking. Their conversations grew richer, shaped by mutual respect. Still, neither spoke of what hovered between them like evening mist. Silence, when chosen, can be a form of wisdom. News of Adisua's position traveled beyond the compound walls. In the market, women debated her fortune. Some praised perseverance. Others warned of envy's long fingers. An old herbalist summed it simply. When the moon grows full, dogs bark louder. Such words reached Adisua's ears through whispers. She listened, but did not tremble. Mama Kudirat visited one afternoon, her eyes shining with pride. She held Adisua's hands tightly. You are standing where many wished you would fall, she said. Adisua smiled softly. I am still standing because people like you taught me how. The embrace spoke of shared survival, of women lifting one another in quiet defiance of cruelty. Not all visitors came with kindness. Mama Sada's sister arrived unexpectedly, her voice coated in false sweetness. She spoke of reconciliation, of family bonds. Adisua listened politely, her heart guarded. Blood can wound deeper than strangers, she thought. When the woman hinted at apologies left unsaid, Adisua answered calmly. Forgiveness grows in truth, not convenience. The visitor left without protest, but her eyes carried unsettled plans. That evening, Oladipo sensed Adisua's unease. He did not press, but he observed. Later, alone with his thoughts, he acknowledged what he could no longer deny. His respect had deepened into affection, steady and serious. Yet he feared the cost. Society does not forgive easily. He asked himself, am I ready to defend what I honor? The answer came not through words, but through clarity. He remembered his own beginnings, the doors closed to him because of birth and circumstance. If I bend now, I betray my own story, he realized. Decisions settled in his spirit like firm ground after rain. Adisua, unaware of his conclusion, focused on service. She organized the household for the upcoming harvest celebration, ensuring every voice felt included. She invoked traditions, reminding the young ones why songs were sung and elders honored. Her leadership revived customs that had grown thin with neglect. Even the oldest aunt nodded in approval. During the celebration, Oladipo addressed the gathering. His words were measured, deliberate. He spoke of integrity, of recognizing worth beyond lineage. Then he acknowledged Adesua publicly, praising her contribution. Murmurs spread, but none challenged him. Respect, once spoken aloud, silences many doubts. Later, under the quiet gaze of night, Oladipo spoke privately to Adesua. He did not offer promises lightly. He spoke of companionship built on equality, of partnership shaped by patience. Adesua listened, heart pounding. Memories of rejection stirred fear. Can I trust joy? She wondered. She answered with honesty. I will not step into shadows again, she said. Oladipo nodded. Nor will I ask you to. The exchange sealed something deeper than words. Understanding passed between them, unhurried. The elders say love that grows from respect survives storms. Yet storms were still gathering. Mama Said watched events unfold from afar. Bitterness fermenting. She felt the sting of loss sharpened by regret. The child I cast away now sits in honor, she thought. Envy whispered dangerous counsel. As Adesua prepared for rest that night, she spoke quietly to the ancestors. If joy is coming, steady my heart. If trials remain, strengthen my spine. She slept without fear, unaware that destiny, once acknowledged, often demands a final test. Remember this lesson, children of tomorrow. Elevation reveals enemies hidden in silence, but it also reveals allies shaped by truth. When roots are deep, even strong winds serve only to make the tree known. The elders warn us that when a drumbeat grows louder, it invites both dancers and those who wish to scatter the circle. Adesua's rise had become such a drumbeat, echoing beyond Oladipo's compound into places where goodwill thins and envy sharpens its teeth. Honor had lifted her, yes, but honor also exposed her to trials meant to test whether her spirit could carry what destiny placed upon her shoulders. Mama Said did not sleep easily anymore. Her nights were crowded with memories she had tried to bury beneath pride. The image of Adesua, once trembling and unwanted, now spoken of with respect, pierced her thoughts. Shame wrestled with resentment inside her chest. Instead of yielding to remorse, she chose bitterness, for bitterness requires less courage. If I cannot reclaim my dignity, she reasoned, I will at least disturb hers. She sought counsel not from elders but from those who trade in whispers. A neighbor, known for stirring unrest, fed her doubts with poisoned sympathy. The world praises her now, the woman said. Soon they will forget who she truly is. Mama Said listened too closely. Plans formed without wisdom, shaped by wounded pride rather than truth. Meanwhile, Adesua sensed a shift in the air. Respect remained, but it was layered now with expectation. People watched her more closely, measuring her reactions, waiting for flaws. So this is the other face of honor, she thought. She reminded herself daily that character must remain steady, whether praised or provoked. The moral test arrived quietly. A disagreement erupted among the junior staff over stored supplies. Voices rose. Accusations flew. Adesua listened to all sides without judgment. She knew that how she handled this moment would define her authority. Favoritism would fracture trust. Harshness would breed fear. She chose fairness, redistributing responsibility and insisting on collective accountability. Some accepted the decision gratefully, others bristled. A young woman muttered under her breath, "Power changes everyone." The words stung, but Adesua held her composure. If I react from hurt, I lose my ground, she reminded herself. That evening, Oladipo noticed her quiet mood. Leadership is lonely, he said gently. Adesua met his eyes. But loneliness is not new to me, she replied. He admired her strength, yet worried. He knew enemies often strike when resolve is tested. not when confidence is loud. The next blow came from an unexpected direction. Mama Sad appeared at the gate, claiming illness and regret. Her voice trembled convincingly. The household stirred uneasily. Adisua's heart tightened. Memories surged uninvited. Is this another test? Or a trap dressed as mercy? She wondered. Oladipo consulted Adisua privately. You owe her nothing, he said. But whatever you decide, let it be yours. The freedom to choose again weighed heavily. Adisua reflected deeply. African wisdom teaches that forgiveness heals the giver first, but it also warns against reopening wounds without caution. She allowed Mama Sad entry under clear boundaries. The woman wept, recounting hardship and remorse. Some words rang hollow. Others carried truth. Adisua listened without interruption. When silence settled, she spoke calmly. I forgive you for my own peace, she said, but trust must grow slowly. Mama Said nodded, though disappointment flickered across her face. The household watched this exchange closely. Many admired Adisua's restraint. Others whispered suspicion. Forgiveness, when misunderstood, can look like weakness. Mama Said stayed briefly, then left, her plans altered but not erased. Soon after, rumors began to circulate beyond the compound. Stories twisted facts, hinting that Adisua used charm to gain favor. Old prejudices resurfaced, sharpened by envy. Oladipo heard the murmurs and addressed them firmly within his circles. Still, he knew reputation, once attacked, requires time and truth to heal. Adisua felt the sting of injustice but refused despair. She sought counsel from Mama Kudirat and the eldest aunt in the household. Both offered the same advice in different words. Let your consistency answer louder than your defense. She took this wisdom to heart. During a community gathering, Adisua demonstrated this resolve openly. She honored elders, credited the household collectively for successes, and declined undue praise. Her humility disarmed many critics. The community began to see through the rumors. Truth, though slower, steadied itself. Mama Said, hearing of this, felt her schemes unravel. Instead of shame, anger hardened her resolve. She withdrew, plotting quietly. The elders say unresolved bitterness ferments into harm if not healed. As the season shifted, Oladipo prepared to make a public declaration regarding his future, one that would silence speculation permanently. He understood the risk but also the necessity. If I hesitate now, he thought, I invite injustice to speak louder than truth. Adisua sensed change approaching. She prayed not for ease, but for courage. If destiny demands witness, let my life speak plainly, she asked of the ancestors. Remember this lesson well. Forgiveness tests strength, leadership tests character, and honor tests endurance. When all three meet, destiny watches closely. Those who remain steady do not escape storms, but they emerge named, known, and unbroken. When the moon stands high and the fire burns low, elders clear their throats before speaking of moments that change a lineage. Such moments are not announced with drums alone. They arrive wrapped in silence, demanding attention from those who can listen beyond noise. The season had turned, and with it came the hour when Oladipo Adikanal could no longer postpone truth. What was guarded in whispers now required a public name. The household gathered under custom, elders seated with dignity, younger ones attentive. Libations were poured, words spoken to honor those who came before. The air carried weight. Adisua felt it pressed gently against her chest. Whatever comes next will not be small, she thought. Her hands remained steady, though her spirit stirred. Oladipo rose to speak. His voice was calm, practiced yet edged with purpose. He spoke first of gratitude, of community, of the unseen hands that shape fortune. Then he turned toward Adisua, not with the gaze of ownership but of recognition. Some people enter our lives as helpers, he said. Others enter as mirrors, reminding us who we once were, and who we must not forget to become. Murmurs followed. Adisua kept her eyes lowered, listening. Oladipo continued, naming her contributions plainly, without embellishment. He spoke of discipline, fairness, and integrity. Then he spoke words that settled like stone. I intend to honor this woman not as charity, not as favor, but as partner. Silence fell, heavy and complete. Some elders nodded slowly. Others exchanged glances. The declaration challenged expectation, but it did not violate tradition. Oladipo had chosen his words carefully, anchoring them in respect. Adisua felt the moment stretch. Am I ready to be seen so fully? She wondered. An elder woman spoke next, her voice carrying authority earned by years. Character is louder than origin, she said. If this union is built on truth, let truth stand. Agreement followed in murmurs. Not all were convinced, but none openly objected. Tradition allows room for wisdom to unfold. Mama Sad, listening from afar, felt the final door close. Rage flared briefly, then collapsed into something heavier. She realized that no scheme could rewrite what had been spoken before witnesses and ancestors. Regret, long resisted, finally settled. It brought no relief, only understanding too late. Adisua was invited to speak. Her heart beat loudly, but her voice remained composed. She acknowledged the honor with humility, credited the community for shaping her strength, and spoke of commitment to shared values. I do not stand here because I am flawless, she said. I stand because I was allowed to grow. Her words softened resistance. Vulnerability, when honest, disarms pride. In the days that followed, reactions rippled outward. Some praised courage. Others questioned precedent. Adisua endured the scrutiny quietly. Oladipo remained firm, shielding her not with dominance but with consistency. They walked the path carefully, aware that approval deepens with time, not declarations. Preparations began according to custom, consultations held, elders engaged. Adisua participated respectfully, learning rituals she had once only observed from the margins. Each lesson felt like reclaiming a piece of herself long denied. She felt gratitude not just for acceptance but for inclusion. Mama Kudurat visited often, offering guidance and laughter. The tree you watered now gives shade, she said proudly. Adisua smiled. May I never forget the taste of thirst, she vowed inwardly. One evening, Adisua encountered Mama Sad again, unexpectedly. The woman looked diminished, pride stripped bare. No accusations were spoken, no apologies rehearsed. Mama Sad simply said, You have become what I feared. Adisua replied gently, I became what pain taught me. Silence followed, final and complete. The elders say closure does not always come with comfort, but it brings clarity. Adisua felt no triumph, only release. The past loosened its grip. As the union drew near, Oladipo reflected on the journey. Wealth had given him many things, but courage had given him peace. To choose rightly is to honor those who raised us, he thought. On the eve of the ceremony, Adisua prayed once more. Let me walk this path without forgetting who walked beside me when I had nothing. The ancestors listened. Remember this teaching. When ritual meets resolve, history bends. Those who rise with humility become bridges between what was broken and what may yet be whole. Destiny does not merely elevate, it entrusts. The elders teach that every story returns to the place where breath first learned its rhythm. When destiny completes its circle, it does not shout. It settles like dust after a long journey. So it was with Adisua's path, which began in rejection, and now stood at the threshold of renewal. The ancestors had watched patiently. Now they leaned closer. The union was not marked by excess, but by meaning. Songs chosen were old, carrying memories older than the walls that heard them. Elders spoke carefully, weaving history and warning into blessing. Adesua listened, heart open, knowing that joy without wisdom is fragile. She stepped forward not as a rescued orphan, but as a woman shaped by fire and steadiness. Oladipo stood beside her, not towering, not claiming, but aligned. His words honored lineage and future equally. He spoke of partnership rooted in truth, not spectacle. The community watched closely. Many recognized the deeper lesson unfolding before them. Wealth had not lifted Adesua. Character had. Mama Kudirat sat among the women, tears resting quietly on her cheeks. "This is how stories should end," she whispered. Another elder corrected her gently. "No, this is how they continue." Laughter followed, knowing and soft. Mama Say did not attend. Absence too is a statement. In her solitude she reflected deeply for the first time without armor. Regret no longer sought an audience. It sat with her as teacher and consequence. She understood at last that cruelty does not erase worth. It only reveals the cruel. This understanding came late, but it came. As seasons passed, Adesua's presence transformed more than one household. She used her influence to uplift quietly, remembering faces once unseen. Young girls sought her counsel. She spoke not of miracles, but of patience. "Endurance is louder than talent," she told them. Her story became instruction, not legend. Oladipo, too, changed. He learned that leadership guided by humility outlives authority enforced by fear. Together they became known, not for what they possessed, but for how they treated others. The community prospered not through charity, but through example. Years later, during a festival, an elder retold Adesua's tale to children gathered by firelight. He did not name her at first. He spoke of an orphan, of rejection, of choice. When he finished, a child asked, "Did she become powerful?" The elder smiled. "She became rooted. Power is only useful when roots are deep." Adesua listened from a distance, unseen, content. She no longer needed recognition. Her peace spoke for her. She whispered gratitude to the ancestors, to suffering that refined rather than destroyed her. Thus, the story closed where it began, with dignity reclaimed, lessons planted, and destiny fulfilled not through revenge, but through becoming. Remember this always. The rejected seed often grows into the strongest tree, and when it gives shade, it does not ask who once denied it water. People of the fire and the calabash, hear this wisdom and keep it close. A beginning does not bind an ending, just as a scar does not stop the body from dancing. Carry this tale to your hearths and speak of it, so hearts may remember. If this story stirred your spirit, leave your voice among the others, for wisdom grows when shared. Stay near the circle, for another tale soon seeks ears willing to listen.